Namaste, beautiful people. It's Sylvia Mordini, the founder of Alchemy of Yoga, and this is your Yoga Sutras Jam. So today we are in chapter 1, verse 2. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha in Sanskrit. And so for many people, this is the most important verse in all of the Yoga Sutras. And if you take chapter 1, verse 2, chapter 1, verse 3, chapter 1, verse 4, these are the ones that really tell you why it is that we practice yoga. So today, tomorrow, and the next day, really tune in and kind of lean in because it's really giving us the historical background of the big why. Why are we doing this to begin with? So let's look at chapter 1, verse 2 today. And Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, I'm going to offer you, as I did yesterday, and if you're just joining me, I'll just give you a quick background. Each day for 11 days, I am presenting the Yoga Sutras for 11 minutes, and I am offering you many translations, not just my opinion, but multiple translations. So from someone that identifies as a he or him with a male teacher, somebody that identifies as a he or him with a female teacher, someone that identifies as she or her with a female teacher, somebody that identifies as she or her with a male teacher, a translation from the transgender community, the LGBT community. And so we have a lot of different translations because historically, the Yoga Sutras were only translated by men because men were the only ones until recent times that were allowed to practice yoga. So, I mean, it makes sense. There's, no harm in just explaining the history of it. And now, interesting enough, the majority of practitioners in the world, like 70-80%, are women. But with that, let me go ahead and read you some of the translations for chapter 1, verse 2. Yoga is the control of the modifications of the mind field. It's a very traditional translation. The union is achieved through the subjugation of the psychic nature and the restraint of the mind. Let that one land. This union is achieved through the subjugation of the psychic nature and the restraint of the mind. And now the third one. Yoga is the ability to direct and focus mental activity. Yoga is the ability to direct and focus mental activity. And then finally, yoga is the uniting of consciousness in the heart. Yoga is the uniting of consciousness in the heart. And so just feel those because they have an energetic imprint. And rather than thinking of things dualistically wrong or right, just allow for the different translations to be as they are. But I want you to form your own opinion based on these scholarly offerings from many other people. But I'll also go on now to identify and define what each of the words means. Because the Yoga Sutras, as we learned yesterday, are short and memorizable. This is just Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, just 4 words. So, yoga, union, literally to yoke from the root yuj, which means to join. The same as the absorption in samadhi. Chitta, of the consciousness of the mind field. Vritti, activities, fluctuations, changes, modifications. And Nirodha, control, regulation, channeling, mastery, integration, coordination, understanding, stilling, quieting, setting aside. So you could just take the individual words, look up what they mean, and then create your own opinion without any introduction of other people's translations of the sutras themselves. So there is that option as well. But in all of these translations, except for the last one, it's all talking about the mind. Everything is about the mind and the control of the mind. This is a very traditional translation that yoga is literally trying to quiet or control the mind. And some would even say empty the mind. But as we know from science, our brain waves continue to function unless we're dead. So there is no like empty mind in that true sense that there's no brainwave patterns. But the last translation, yoga is the uniting of consciousness and the heart. This translation comes from Nishala Joy Devi. She was, for me, in 2010, the only translation that I knew of that was by a woman and from a feminine perspective, not just a she or her, but someone that was looking at it influenced by the divine feminine. There may have been other women teachers, but influenced from the masculine energy and translating from that perspective. So this was life-changing for me, because as much as I want to understand and have some mastery over my mind and what I'm thinking, I am also somebody that really much feels. I'm trying not to overthink, and I'm trying to get back into my heart so that there's not such separation from what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling, which creates dissonance and pain or suffering. So this uniting of consciousness and the heart, it's such a different perspective to include the heart and include feeling. That what is yoga ultimately? And the explanation too, if we're only looking at the mind, the subjugation of the mental mind field, like it feels kind of harsh. It feels a little bit aggressive. And there's so much energy there of combating our mind, like we're fighting against our minds and what they're thinking. And at the end of the day, the vritti are just the movements of the mind. We're just thinking. Thoughts are changing. Like there was an old movie, a little cartoon movie called Up. And the little dog was just like, oh, green, grass, sound, bird. And that's what happens in our minds. It's also referred to as the monkey mind, that left unattended, our minds will just continuously jump from one thing to the other, 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 to the other. So we feel agitated as a result, or we lack clarity. Therefore, if you are able to calm the mind, then you can gain clarity and you can feel more calm. And good things come when we are relaxed and more calm and not in a highly agitated state. Another common metaphor that's used to explain Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha is that imagine that your mind is like the ocean, and it is a calm day and the water is very still. So that is the Nirodha. The water's still moving, of course, but it's very quiet and still, as compared to when there's all these choppy waves, highs and lows and highs and lows, peaks and valleys. And that's like the turbulence of the mind when we are not managing the process of our thinking. So some key takeaways for me, this sutra in particular just introduced me to the fact that we do have a choice and we are in control of our thoughts. I had never known that before. I literally became an adult, did not know that I'm in control of my mind. Not clearly like that. I always thought, and I would say like, well, you made me think that, or you did this, or what have you. I didn't understand that my thoughts are mine, and that we have 60,000 thoughts a day, and that I am in control of how I use the 60,000 thoughts. They are like currency. If I give you $60,000 and you have to spend it today, you can spend it on anything you want. Are you going to spend that currency on things you don't like? On clothes that don't fit? On food that's not your taste? Or are you going to invest that currency in what is your preference? So 60,000 thoughts, this currency of our thought energy and our mind stuff. And when we have a thought, the thought then creates a feeling. So everything this is interrelated. So I take from both the masculine and the feminine the understanding that yes, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, it can be an, a mastery of the mind, but, and that we are responsible for our thoughts, but it really is ultimately as well the uniting of consciousness in the heart. And that until that translation from Nishala Joy Devi, I didn't really appreciate the truth of the heart element, and that why are we doing this anyway? If chapters 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 are really telling us the big why we practice yoga, then I'm more interested in having balance and unity in my heart. Now, the different ways of Nirodha, like what does that mean? What does that look like? I shared like some of the definitions. It can be regulation, integration, coordination, understanding, stilling the mind, or setting aside. These are common ones. And the most common is that yoga helps you still your mind, like the quiet ocean versus the turbulent ocean. But honestly, it changes. Like what yoga does for us really changes day to day in this Nirodha, this impact or effect of chapter 1, verse 2. So mastery, yes, it would be nice to think that we are like becoming masterful at orchestrating our thoughts and the sequence of our thoughts. But not all the time. When you felt like out of control of your thoughts, the last thing you were trying to do was mastery. There is some regulation, but that word just feels so stiff. So for me, because I can only speak to me, it feels a little bit aggressive. And I, in my background, just for total transparency, anything that feels harsh triggers me to some degree because I've had abuse when I was married. So like anything that feels or triggers me to that place, like I stay away from. I look up through the thesaurus other ways to say some of these same words. So mastery, maybe on some days when we're at our best. Regulation, subjugation, I'd go with different words for me. Coordination, yes, I would like to think that I am coordinating my thoughts and that they're not just wild horses. And one of my favorites that probably doesn't get enough attention is that Nirodha can also just mean setting aside. Therefore, when you go to yoga class and you are troubled by something in your life and you're just replaying it and causing the agitation, or your mind just keeps going to it over and over, sometimes the very best we can do is just take a mental vacation. Before you begin your practice at home or anywhere else, you just decide that you're not going to decide. And you're just going to set aside that you're trying to figure out or solve or find a way through. So you just put it aside for the time that you're on the mat and you're doing your practice. Now, at the end of the practice, you can come back to that you set aside and you can look at it from a fresh perspective. And you can say, that doesn't fit me anymore. I've outgrown it. Or you could pick it back up and take it back with you. But more times than not, the setting aside, just having a little bit of a break, a little mental vacation, solves most of our challenges in the agitations in our mind that cause the disturbance in our hearts. So take a big breath in, open mouth exhale, and just put your hands on your own heart. That ultimately, this beautiful verse, yoga is united in the consciousness of the heart. That what we are trying to find and develop a deeper relationship with, the why of our yoga, is because it makes our hearts feel better. and let your mind soften into your heart by just bowing your head a little bit. And tomorrow, try to lead your day with your heart and a little bit less your mind. Give it a break. And open your eyes, lift your head. Well, hope that was fun. And there's more to come. But I love the sutras. They're one of the required elements in yoga teacher trainings, all yoga teacher trainings that are recognized by Yoga Alliance, just like my school is, Alchemy of Yoga. So if you're interested in a clarity talk and you want to learn more about my upcoming online yoga teacher training, an 8-week program, a combination, a hybrid of both live, interactive discussions and Zoom sessions, along with the beautiful facilitation of the platform Teachable and self-paced learning through videos and audios and other documents. So it is exciting. If you're interested, then book a clarity call. Why not? And I have about 50 hours this week open for calls. And also I have 4 more live info sessions. So jump on one of those as well. But for now, from my heart to your heart, to the heart of the universe, namaste. Peace out, everybody.